If you're a USMNT fan out there, regardless if you're a big-time fan, small-time fan, or just jumping on the bandwagon, man, you know what this day means for us. Anytime we have a roster release, it's basically Christmas coming early for us, if you see it that way. At least that's how I see it. And today, that's how I felt. I saw the roster release notification pop up on my phone, and I decided to click on it. I was going to wait, and I was going to give you guys my genuine reaction, but I said, you know what? No, I'm too eager. I'm too damn excited. I'm going to click it. I'm going to view it. I'm a little nervous, but I click on it, and I start looking at the goalkeepers at first. They're looking okay. I look at the defenders. I'm having my questions. I'm looking at the midfield, and I'm like, holy shit, we're in some trouble here, man. And then I look at the strikers, and I'm just like, that's the cherry on top, bro. In other words, very, very, very disappointed in the call-ups. Not all of them, but in some of them. And that's what we're going to be doing today, guys. Today, we're going to be breaking down this November roster here right now for you guys. And I'm going to be honest. I'm going to be frank. And I'm going to tell you how I truly feel about this roster. There are some players out there that I'm excited about. Don't get me wrong, like, yeah, a couple. But then there's obviously some admissions here, some selections that I'm just like, we've seen this a lot. We've seen this too many times. Give us something different. Change it up a little bit. Give us some fresh blood, some new blood, something exciting to look forward to, not the same stagnant dookie players that you continue to call up. I don't want to ruin it, but obviously I'm ranting already. It's already spilling over. But yeah, we're going to be breaking down this roster, guys. As a matter of fact, before we even get into this, guys, smash the like button if you guys are disappointed in this roster call-up. If you're disappointed in some of the players, and smash the like button if you're excited about some players, okay? Aside from that, subscribe if you haven't already. Let's get into it. Okay, so we're going to take a look at the goalkeepers first, all right? Now, the goalkeeper position, like I mentioned in my previous video, I was definitely expecting Turner and Stefan to be called up, and I was kind of split between Sean Johnson and Ethan Horvath. Eventually, it was Sean Johnson. Like I mentioned in the previous video as well, I don't have an issue with the third string goalkeeper because in my opinion, he's probably not going to play a lot. He's not going to see any minutes. And I do truly believe that Zach Stefan is probably going to start against Mexico and Matt Turner is probably going to potentially start against Jamaica, depending on how Berhalter feels in my opinion. But I think eventually they will split a game. But aside from that, the goalkeeper position looks stout. We have our two potential starting premier goalkeepers here and third string goalkeeper and Sean Johnson. Aside from that, I'm good with it. Let's talk about the defenders now. And before I get into it, as a matter of fact, Serginho Dest is a last minute drop from the roster. Unfortunately, the guy picked up a back injury or something like that, so he's not going to be taking part of the November window. He's not going to be part of the squad or the camp. So just letting you guys know, if you guys didn't hear that, now you guys know. But if you knew that already, now you know the deal. But aside from that, we have Reggie Cannon, Mark McKenzie, Chris Richards, Anthony Robinson, Miles Robinson, Joe Scully, finally, Sam Vines, DeAndre Yedlin, and Walker Zimmerman. Reggie Cannon is one of those players I'm really surprised to even see on this list, on this roster, because let's be honest here, let's be frank. He's only played 169 minutes for Boa Vista since the beginning of August, guys. So he hasn't even sniffed the field at all for them. Just barely. But I'm assuming he's coming in for Serginho Dest. Obviously, he had to leave with the back injury, or else the right back position would have potentially looked like this: Dest, DeAndre Yedlin, and Scully. But now we have Reggie Cannon. I definitely don't think that Reggie Cannon is going to sniff the field at all. Like I mentioned, is not getting any playing minutes with Boa Vista. So I think that's going to be DeAndre Yedlin and Joe Scully, who split the games between Mexico and Jamaica. That's what I think. Before we get into the center group with Mark McKenzie, I do want to talk about John Brooks. I saw the list and the guy is not here. Not exactly sure what's going on. Not exactly sure if he picked up a last-minute injury, but I've been doing my research on the guy and I haven't read anything. I went on Transfer Market. It seems like he's been playing a lot lately for his team, for his club. So I'm just very curious to see why he's not incorporated, right? I mean, you look at the list, you go down the list and you look at players like Walker Zimmerman, who in my opinion is a very similar style of player to a John Brooks, right? They're tall, they're physical, they're not the fastest, could be a liability at times. Aside from that, they're very similar. Now, the only thing is John Brooks is a little bit more technical in my opinion. He's a little bit better when it comes to receiving the ball, controlling it. I just don't understand why he's not here. I don't understand why Berhalter would pick a Walker Zimmerman, who I've seen play time after time. Granted, he could be a solid backup at times, but I don't trust him starting for us. I trust Brooks because he's been there, he's done that. He's been through the World Cup qualifiers before. He's played in big matches. He knows what it takes to be in those matches, right? Offers that veteran presence that we truly need in the World Cup qualifiers because he's been through multiple cycles. He's been to the World Cup. He's scored in the World Cup, so he knows what it takes to hash out, to garner some points. Miles Robinson, like I mentioned in my previous video, has been our most durable and most reliable center back up to date. I think he's center back one without a doubt. Now, I see him starting both games against Mexico and Jamaica. Eventually, I potentially see him splitting some partnership between Mark McKenzie and Chris Richards. I apologize. I think it'll be Miles Robinson and Mark McKenzie against Mexico, and then eventually Miles Robinson, Chris Richards against Jamaica. After calling Joe Scally's name for months now, we finally have him on the roster, guys. I understand Berhalter dropped the ball on a couple calls, but he did not drop the ball on this one. And if he would have dropped the ball on this one, I think he should have been fired on the spot. But I'm glad to see Joe Scally on here. I truly want to see him split some time with DeAndre Yedlin at that right back position. I wouldn't mind seeing Joe Scally against Mexico, to be honest. I think he has that physicality to go in there and push their forwards around. Scally has that type of mentality, that type of attitude that he's going to go in there against Mexico at the age of 18, not going to give a rat's ass, and he's going to impose his will on their strikers, on their wingers, because he's done that to Bayern, because he's done that to other big-time strikers, other big-time wingers. Why wouldn't he do that to Mexico? So I wouldn't mind this kid starting against Mexico. As a matter of fact, I would give the nod to this kid, Joe Scally, to start against El Tri, and then potentially start DeAndre Yedlin against Jamaica. We probably won't see that happen. I think it's going to be DeAndre Yedlin against Mexico and potentially Scally against Jamaica. I really want that. I really want Scally to get some minutes, but we're going to have to see what Berhalter does, because obviously the guy, you know, he definitely surprises us. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he calls in Joe Scally and just lets him sit on the bench for these 2 games. Sam Vines, in my opinion, it was always Sam Vines at that left back position to be the backup to Anthony Robinson. I always thought that Sam Vines was that guy for Greg Berhalter. I just felt it. George Bello was nice. I mean, he got called in a couple times, did his thing. He was kind of a question mark at times, wasn't that reliable. But now, obviously, that Sam Vines is coming back from a collarbone injury, fully healthy, I think it's going to be Sam Vines from here on out. And I'll be frank with you guys, I'm not a big-time Sam Vines fan, but let's give him a chance. Let's see what he could do for us in the World Cup qualifiers. If I'm not mistaken here, I believe DeAndre Yedlin is the only defender we have on the roster at the moment that has been to a World Cup, that has been through multiple World Cup qualifier cycles. Like I mentioned, John Brooks would have been the other defender, but obviously he's not here. So we're definitely going to have to rely on DeAndre Yedlin's veterancy at this point. Walker Zimmerman, I'm not even going to waste my time on the guy. I prefer to have John Brooks here. And I know a lot of people are probably going to say, oh, John Brooks is a liability. He gets beat, blah, 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 blah. Well, Walker Zimmerman gets beat too, and he's pretty damn slow himself. The only difference between him and Brooks is, like I mentioned previously, I think Brooks is a little bit more stout when he has the ball. He's a little bit smarter, puts himself in some positions to not get beat most of the time. Obviously, sometimes he does because he's slow, but I just think he's a little overall better player than Walker Zimmerman, overall better defender. And like I mentioned, he brings that veteran presence. So that being said, that's my argument for Walker Zimmerman to not be here. And whatever, let's move on. Let's go on to the midfielders, damn it. Because obviously this is where the big time questions begin, in the midfield position. For the midfielders, he brought Calvin Acosta, Tyler Adams, Gianluca Busio, Sebastian Lletget, Weston McKennie, Yunus Musa, and Christian Roldan. All I gotta say is I'm glad the core, the base, MMA is back. I'm glad McKennie, Musa, and Adams are here, guys. Aside from that, and obviously you sprinkle in a Gianluca Busio, which I'm thankful for, and potentially a Calvin Acosta, who could definitely be a serviceable backup to Tyler Adams, if anything, I'm okay with it. But then you start looking at players like Sebastian Lletget and Christian Roldan, and you just continue to ask yourself, you continue to wonder, what the hell is this guy doing? Like, why do you keep bringing in players like Sebastian Lletget and Christian Roldan? Like I said it in my previous video, guys, I truly believe this guy's trolling us at this point. You cannot be inserting these type of players that add no spark, no creativity, no solution, no answer to what you're trying to do in the midfield. Sebastian Lletget, I just broke down a video of him basically allowing Panama's only goal to go in on how he just stood there on his own coverage, supposedly, right? Stood there and allowed the Panama guy to receive the ball to his head top and just pluck it in for a goal. And obviously that's how he lost the game. The guy was benched against Costa Rica, didn't even sniff the field, thank God. We thought that we saw the last of him, and here he is again, popping up like an Easter egg, not going away. Why? Because Sebastian Lletget is Berhalter's probably Sancho. Who knows? I have no idea, but this isn't fair, man. This isn't fair to Luca De La Torre out there, to Julian Green if he wants to get called up. If anything, I think Luca De La Torre, it's time we look at him. Granted, I understand we didn't see much of him, but the guy is the only midfielder, that plays the most minutes out of any other midfielder we have here. The guy has played up to date 860 something minutes for his team, his current club at the moment. So the guy is getting the minutes. You don't have to worry about that. He's getting the season, baby. He's getting the the experience. So why don't you call him in over Sebastian Lletget? Like I mentioned, we didn't see him a lot against Jamaica. Jamaica, Luca De La Torre, but the minutes we saw him, he was getting forward, he was getting vertical. That's something that Berhalter preached in the previous World Cup qualifier window. And that's something that Lletget doesn't do. He does not get vertical, nor Cristiano Roldan. And let's talk about Cristiano Roldan. Okay, well, you're bringing him in because he could be that potential midfield and winger. Okay, I get that, but I have a better solution for you, Berhalter. Check this out. We're only playing 2 games in this World Cup qualifier window of November, guys. We're not playing 3, so in my opinion, that extra depth player at the midfield, Christian Roldan, he shouldn't even be there. And I understand he helps you out at the midfield, helps you out at the winger position at times. But if you're scared that you're not going to have enough wingers, then bring in a Conrad De La Fuente. You don't need that 7th midfielder. Check this out. We have MMA as the core, as the base. Tyler Adams, Yunus Musa, and Weston McKennie, right? Obviously, Kellen Acosta's backup to Tyler Adams, and Gianluca Pulisic could be a backup to a Weston McKennie or potentially a Yunus Musa. You take out Sebastian Lletget, you bring in a Luca De La Torre, that's a complete solid midfield with 6 solid prospects, right? And like I mentioned, if you're worried that you're not going to have enough wingers, well, then you bring in a Conrad De La Fuente to potentially back up a Christian Pulisic who is coming back from injury barely, right? Or you could use that 7th midfielder spot that you're wasting, in my opinion, to bring in a Daryl Dike who's been in form, who's been hot for Orlando, who's been scoring a lot lately, to potentially back up a Ricardo Pepi. That's how I see it. It's not that hard, but this guy he overcomplicates everything. He tries to think like, okay, wait a minute. Instead of bringing natural players that play their natural positions, let's bring in players that could play here and there and there and there. Not only bring in a player, but bring in useless players that could play here and here and here, which is a Cristian Roldan and a Sebastian Lletget. I don't know. It's very simple. I mean, like I mentioned, I gave you guys a quick scenario there on how easy it is. For the wingers, we got Brenden Aaronson, Paul Arriola, Christian Pulisic, and Tim Weah. Let's be honest about this cat, okay? Let's be honest about Paul. A lot of people defend him on Twitter, and I understand, yeah. You know, he's a high-energy player. He runs a lot. And that's their argument on Twitter. Oh, you know, he does the dirty work. He runs a lot. He does the work that nobody wants to do, and I'm thankful for that. I really, truly am. As a winger that he plays the position, I'm thankful he does the dirty work. But that's the only thing he does. Aside from doing the dirty work and recovering balls and passing it to teammates, he doesn't do anything else. I mean, if he wants to do the dirty work, then go play him at the left back position or right back position. Convert him into a defender. Because we could definitely use that high energy, that ability to recover balls in transition on the flanks. The ability to score, the ability to create a chance is not there. So if we don't have that at the winger position, then it's just a waste of a spot, right? If you bring in a player that doesn't offer anything going forward, it's a waste of spot. Well, that's why I'm talking about Paul Arriola, because that's what he does. And then I look at a player like Conrad and I'm like, wait a minute, he's been snubbed back-to-back months. I know what type of player he is. I watch his film. I break down his highlights. Granted, he doesn't play a lot, but the minutes he plays, I mean, he's an impact player for Marseille. That's something that I can truly not say about Paul Arriola. And this is where I start thinking about Berhalter's decision-making, his ability to call up the best potential prospects. Obviously, we know that the guy doesn't have that ability to do so. And we're going to continue to struggle with these call-ups, guys. Whether we like it or not, as long as Berhalter is in the helm, is under the helm, is in charge of the USMNT, he's going to continue to call in Sebastian Lletget, Cristian Roldan, Walker Zimmerman, and Paul Arriola. But with that being said, yeah, I'm super pissed off with the fact that Conrad's left off again. Conrad's ability to not only break down a defender, but ability to drag in an extra defender to defend him is something we need, right? It's something we could definitely use, especially when we don't have players like Christian Pulisic, you know, fully healthy, and Gio Reyna. I talked about Pulisic in the previous video, and I said that I wanted Berhalter to call him in to knock some rust off. The guy missed the October window, obviously, with that injury, and he was in danger of missing this one, right? Now, I'm not exactly sure what the workload's going to look like for him, but even if he comes in against Jamaica, gets a couple minutes there, or even if he comes in against Mexico, gets a couple minutes there, or for both games, comes in, gets a couple minutes here and there, that's something positive for him, obviously, working him into the USMNT plans once again. Kind of like what Tuchel did for him recently at Chelsea when they took on Malmo in the Champions League, brought him in, incorporated him. So doing something like that, you know, that's something solid. That's something that'll go a long way. Doing something like that for him, working him up to speed would definitely be something beneficial for him. I'm definitely glad to see Tim Weah and his blistering speed back on this roster. I think eventually him and Brenden Aaronson are going to get the nods to be our starting wingers against Mexico. If I'm not mistaken, I believe this is the first time Jesus Ferreira is being called up for a World Cup qualifier. And I want to start off by saying congratulations, baller. I mean, this is as big as it gets. Aside from the World Cup right here, you're trying to get to the World Cup. You know, you're representing your club and country and what you believe in, man. That logo on your chest. But with that being said, congratulations. And obviously we're winning as well because this kid is a dual nat. And yes, we are taking a quick look here at his transfer market because I truly didn't know much about him aside from I know he was definitely making an impact for FC Dallas, but I didn't know how much. But it says here that his appearances are 26, 8 goals and 8 assists. So the guy is definitely doing some damage. It also says that he can play that attacking mid, center forward, and second striker. So in my opinion, I think that's what Berhalter's bringing him in for. He's going to be the backup to Ricardo Pepi, potentially could play that center forward position as well. So I think Ricardo Pepi is still going to get the nod for both games against Mexico and Jamaica. Eventually, maybe Jesus will come in off the bench and try to make an impact at that center forward position. But just goes to show that Berhalter loves to continue to play players out of their position. Jesus Ferreira, I mean, he's capable of playing that forward position, right? He's played it at FC Dallas, but in this previous season, he's only played the center forward position once. Aside from that, he's been playing at the attacking mid role for FC Dallas. So that's another question that I'm saying, that's another question that's coming up that I'm trying to pinpoint and wonder why Berhalter might do this, unless he's trying to come in here into this World Cup qualifier window of November with one striker, Ricardo Pepi. But why bring in Jesus Ferreira, who's only played center forward once this season for FC Dallas, to potentially bring him here in a World Cup qualifier for the USMNT to plug him in at the center forward position, right? I mean, aside from that, why would he be here? I don't think he's going to be playing midfield, and I highly doubt he's going to be playing winger. So it just goes to show that his inability to select players is very sus at times. Not bashing on Jesus Ferreira and his skill, because obviously the kid is very talented, very skillful. But just the fact that he's bringing him in to potentially play that center forward position, mind-boggling. Very mind-boggling. Why not bring in a Daryl DK, who's a surefire center forward who's been in a tear for Orlando City recently? Check this out. I mean, these are his stats, guys. We're breaking them down here. I'm not lying. I'm not making this up. This is all on Transfer Market. Check it out for yourself. But in the past 3 games for Orlando, he scored in back-to-back-to-back games. From September 26th to October the 3rd, scored in back-to-back-to-back games as well. So that means that in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 8 games. Out of the last 8 games, he scored in 6 games. The guy's a hot hand at the moment, right? He's a surefire forward. You know what you're going to get out of him. I'm just glad we have Ricardo Pepi, FC Dallas prodigy, leading the way at the striker position, man. I know there's a lot of question marks throughout this roster, but this guy's not a question mark at all. If anything, this guy's a bright spot. This guy's a building block. He's a pillar for us. All I got to say is if we could get this kid a couple balls in the penalty area, I know that he's more than capable. He's more than skilled enough to clean a couple of those up, give us a couple goals. I definitely see him starting against Mexico and Jamaica. All I want for Christmas, obviously it's not Christmas month, but all I want for Christmas is Ricardo Pepi scoring the game-winning goal against Mexico. How cherry would that be? I mean, basically that would be the cherry on top. Can you imagine? I mean, had the opportunity to pick Mexico, but picks the States, gives the States the win over Mexico in a World Cup qualifier game. That'd be solid. But that aside, moving forward, he's our bell cow, man. He's going to be our striker, our lead striker moving forward into the World Cup qualifiers. And I would definitely be okay with Pepi being our lead striker in the World Cup if that was the case. There's just some big time question marks. Every time there's a roster drop, there's a big time question mark. There's some snubs. And I think it's always going to be like this, man. I think, like I mentioned, as long as Berhalter's in the helm, under the helm, we're always going to have these questionable call-ups, and it's just going to be that way. But that being said, like I mentioned, let me know what you guys' thoughts are on this roster. Honest thoughts, guys. Honest thoughts. Rant on the comment section if you guys need to. Don't stress too much about this. Obviously, we need to focus. We need to turn the page onto Mexico, and we need to put our best possible starting 11 when we take on Mexico and Cincinnati. And we are going to be dropping a video. We're going to be breaking down that matchup between Mexico and the USMNT. And I'm also going to be giving you guys my potential starting 11, who I think Berhalter should trot onto the field to take those 3 points away from Mexico. Now, with that being said, guys, enjoy your weekend. I'll see you guys next time.